UFOs, monsters, mysteries. You're listening to Talking Weird. And now, from a cabin deep in the Northwoods, your hosts, Dr. Dean Bertram and Jen Durrell.
Hey.
Was that you banging or was that
hey,
me?
Babies. That's me.
Hey, baby. Well, we're off to a crazy start. I have my adorable 5-year-old this weekend, and she's got some kind of, I don't know if it's allergies, as you suggested, or whether she's picked up a cold at the homeschooling group we go to, or her piano / French lesson this week. But anyway, let's hope she doesn't come running up the stairs to say hello to everybody.
Well, that's fine.
It is. It's all. Yeah, it's fine. But I tell you what, I think last week we were mentioning how fall was coming, but now we're past the equinox now, so we're officially entering the spooky season.
Yes.
My pumpkins are turning orange finally in the patch as well. So
mine aren't.
Well, you've still got a little while.
I started late,
but you don't have the danger of frost wiping them out in a week or something like I do up here.
Not yet, but it is Missouri. So.
Mm-hmm. Any spooky stories for me this week?
Spooky stories? No.
Because I know you're back at the spooky location you work at.
I'm back at the lodge, but I'm not working inside the lodge. Oh, I do have a spooky story.
Give it to me.
So I work in maintenance right now. So I was in the shop, and I was in the bathroom. So I left one of the doors open. I usually shut it, and it flung shut on its own. So I was trying to debunk it for the longest time. Couldn't figure it out. I left the door open for the longest, like at least 10 minutes, waiting for it to slam on its own because I thought maybe the wind did it, but it didn't. So and Carrie, who I work with, I told her about it. So we were trying to figure it out. But yeah, I guess there's one little spooky story. Maybe
it was a ghost with some idea of, privacy. So it tried to shut the door.
Well, funny enough, I was in the bathroom and I thought, shit, I should have shut that door. Because usually we have to. Because we have crazy people that like to walk around the park. So you never know who's going to walk in.
You have told me that before.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it was your own psychokinesis.
Yes, I know. I thought about that too. Maybe I have telepathy, just don't know it.
Who knows how much of the paranormal isn't our own interior being projected outwards? That's something we can ask tonight's guest, probably.
Yes.
He's an American documentary filmmaker who's been creating paranormal-focused films since 2010. As a child, he had his first paranormal experience in the home that he grew up in, a house that was built in 1862. During his high school years, he visited Waverly Hills Sanatorium with some friends. On that tour, he captured disembodied voices that he couldn't explain on an audio recorder. And when making his 2012 documentary, Paranormal Encounters, A Haunting at Farrer Elementary, he underwent more anomalous experiences, and these experiences drove his desire to continue investigating haunted locations even after completing that film. Today, alongside his fiancée, India Hopwood, he is the executive producer and co-host of the series Paranormal Encounters. So I am delighted to welcome tonight's guest, Connor Biddle. Greetings, Connor.
Hello, Connor.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me on tonight.
That's good.
It's great to have you.
Excited.
Yeah.
Well, I finished reading your book today.
Oh, yeah?
So I think starting off with questions, I'm kind of curious, or maybe the audience would like to know your first experiences, which I noticed in your was it the first or second chapter where you talked about you thought that your family was haunted? Do you want to kind of go into that?
Yeah. It was the second chapter. My family is haunted. So weirdly enough, my first ever paranormal experience I ever had was when I was a kid, and across the street from the house that I had that experience at, my family also had an experience in a house across the street. and they had like footsteps and things would come in the middle of the night to my aunt's bedroom. It was absolutely bizarre. And I found out that the house that I lived in, the street was actually named after a guy named Valentine Berkey, which he also had the biggest prominent tombstone in the backyard. We used to have a graveyard in our backyard because we lived next to a church.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, you also had a really cool story about I don't know if it was an orb. You said you saw something kind of.
Yeah. So I shared a bedroom with my brother. I think I was around 10 years old or so, and I was scared of the dark. Funny enough, when I was a kid, and I would always have my door open and the light in the hallway light on. And like I said, my brother and I shared a room, and my bed was against the wall, and across the room my brother's bed was too. And we had this connecting like closet door that went from our bedroom into my parents' bedroom, but we never used it for that. We used it for storage. We always had it shut. I was laying there one night and I was trying to go to sleep, and I saw this white, only thing I can describe it as like a ping pong sized ball that came out from above my head and underneath my brother's bed. It scared me so bad. I ran downstairs, told my parents. They told me that I was just falling asleep, that I was just tired. My grandma would always tell me that it was just angels that were playing. But I know what I saw because I wasn't falling asleep. I wasn't asleep. I was wide awake. I was having a hard time sleeping that night. So that was my first ever paranormal experience I ever had, and that was when I was like 10 years old.
10 years old.
Yeah, and across the street, my family had experiences at the house directly across the street. It was just so weird how that whole entire, I guess, how it happened, you know?
Yeah. So was it like the entire street that you thought maybe was haunted, or it's just like interlinked with your family?
It was interlinked, I think, more so with my family, or so the houses. Like I never got a chance to find the history about the house that they grew up in. But yeah, it could be just the street. You know, the street was really, really old. It was an old part in Goshen, Indiana. It's what it was. It's called West Goshen. It's an old part of that city. So it could be just something with that city and stuff too.
Yeah.
But
well, that's pretty cool. Well, there was another house too, right, that you lived in, or was that great grandparents? Is that right? Yeah,
that was my great grandparents' house. Yeah, they had things that so like that house that my great grandparents lived in. It was on Middlebury Street, and that's actually the house they still had paranormal experiences at when they moved out in the 70s. And those are where the experiences for my aunt Carol's the one who actually was kind enough to send me about all their experiences they had when she was a kid.
Yeah.
And she talked about hearing footsteps, and then she had this Jenny Lean style bed frame that she would sleep in. And she was laying there one night in her bedroom, and she heard footsteps come up the stairs and into the room and around her into the side of her bed to her side. And she felt this hand brush the side of her face. It scared her so bad, and she had nothing but all those experiences of the house. They heard knocking in the basement. My Uncle Jim was home alone one day, and he heard, like, they had like this utility. I don't know what you call it back then or so, but it's like this room that before you go into the house had like this utility sink, and then next to it had like the basement door. And he was washing his hands there one day. Nobody was home, and he heard this knocking coming from the other side of the basement door. It scared him so bad he ran all the way downtown. Didn't even stop. So yeah, they had a lot of experiences in that house in Middlebury. Even when they moved out, my great grandma didn't really want to move. They were upset that she didn't want to move the house or whatever. But they kind of joked and named the ghost Homer because that was the previous owner who used to live in that house.
Oh, did they do any research on him?
I don't think they did, because back then, I mean, people didn't really talk about ghost stuff.
That's true.
I mean, it was the 70s. They were probably looked at as weird if they started talking about people.
That's true.
I found it so fascinating, like hearing about all because I never knew it was that many experiences. I knew that they lived in a house. They call it Middlebury Street because that's the house, obviously, the street that it was on. But they had so many experiences there. I never knew the extent of it. So.
So do you think anybody in your family could possibly be sensitive, or?
I don't know. You know, to be honest with you, my family has always loved the paranormal and has been around it a lot. That's how, like, I kind of got influenced about it when I was growing up. But I think more so it'd be more so my great aunt Carol.
No.
It would be more so that, because she had all those experiences when she was a kid. Everybody else had experiences too, but she had the majority of them.
That's pretty cool.
It sure sounds like it's in your blood.
Yeah.
Connor, for a family to have had that many
For sure.
experiences, which makes me think about kind of old chestnut. Is it a place that's haunted, or is it the people that's in the place that are haunted? Is this something that you think about regularly when you're out doing your investigations in regards to your own family as well?
I do, because I think sometimes, like you talk about like people being haunted, like some people have a lot of experiences that they shouldn't be having as much as frequently, like when I first started doing the show, I had so many experiences that were every time I went somewhere, I had crazy experiences, not just hearing little knocks. I actually had voices I could hear, and it's just like, I felt like it was for a reason, I guess. Not everybody has those experiences. I was open to have those experiences, but it was just really strange how every place I would go to, I had an experience. I felt like I had to do it. Like it was like I was meant to do this.
Yeah. But you also were big fans of the Ghost Adventures, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I'm sure most people were. Yeah, I used to watch Ghost Adventures a lot when I was a kid. And it did help influence a little bit of me going out and shooting that documentary for our school that you talked about, Dean. I love the idea of being able to go travel and go to haunted places. I can't get enough of haunted places. I love it. It's like addicting, and like I just wanted to do that for a living. I thought I could,
Yeah. Have you had any problems with that? Investigating so much? Does it take a toll on you any?
Not so much the investigating, the traveling to places. Yeah, because like I had mentioned before the show to you, I used to live in South Carolina. So like most of the places that we would drive to is 10 hours or more. And we would do 3 places in a row every night. Like we would go on the weekend on a Friday morning, we would drive 10 hours or so to Indiana, or because like most of the places that we would want to go to weren't even close to the place that we lived at in South Carolina. Yeah. So we'd travel up to Indiana and Ohio and Tennessee and stuff. And those were long drives. So those were the most exhausting parts of doing it. It was just the driving part. Not sleeping, doing 3 places in a row on a weekend and then driving home and going back to work. Yeah.
3 places. How do you keep all your camera stuff together? Like your footage and all that. Do you have the system?
Yeah, I kind of do. Yeah, like I just basically just film everything when I just dump it all in one hard drive and just organize it by like a folder, and then like by the type of the camera and those type of things. I have luckily now over the years collected plenty of SD cards, so I could shoot a couple of like two locations without running out of storage footage.
Oh.
So,
well, we're talking about filmmaking and workflow. It makes me think you've been doing this for quite some time now. Are there unique challenges when you're trying to film the paranormal or the supernatural? And have you learnt techniques over the last decade or so which has helped you perhaps capture it better or engage with it better as a documentarian?
I think I have. Like I've learned, like honestly, like as far as like cameras go, like you don't need night vision cameras, honestly, to shoot at night and capture stuff. I've captured stuff in just shooting in normal natural light. I've learned, just techniques, like not so much cameras and like how to better capture the activity. I have found though, like just leaving a camera running, overnight works even better than people being there. Indy and I have captured so many weird things. Like I'm talking really, really strange things when we're sleeping. Like we slept in a few places last summer when we went filming. And we did find that leaving the camera while you sleep in a place works really well. Because one time we got a woman like singing or something like that while we were sleeping in Randolph County Infirmary. It was pretty freaky. I have this weird phobia where I have to lock the door. Wherever I sleep at, I have to lock the door just to feel safer. Obviously a ghost can probably just
they walk right through it.
Yes, I don't know. Just being in the middle of nowhere, I guess, like that. But
Gives you a little sense of comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the film thing goes, I've learned how to organize my stuff better and how to back it up, because over the years I used to not back up so much stuff. And when I did, I only put on one hard drive, and I've lost some hard drives to that because some of them have caught on fire before, some really freaky, weird situations. Yeah. So I've learned how to back things up and just keep myself organized as far as where I'm going. And because it makes me very anxious to lose some footage, especially if I capture something crazy. You know what I mean? So
man, you need to become the poster boy for, like, you know, a SanDisk or a Seagate or a WD or something. I'm, you know, paranormal investigator and filmmaker Connor Biddle. You might not know, but there's a higher chance of our drives being destroyed by psychic or supernatural entities. So we always use Seagate, you know?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's one thing you can never get enough of is hard drive space. You know, I'm always running out of hard drive space. I bought a 4 terabyte hard drive to store all of our episodes, because I've backed them all up from what India and I have done. I'm literally not able to back up any more episodes after if we go film another one right now.
Oh, wow.
It fills up so quickly, and I don't save the footage, you know, like I put that on something else. But like just the project files, it's just crazy. There's a lot of footage to it. So storage space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to that very first documentary, Paranormal Encounters, or Haunting at Farrah Elementary, towards the very end of that, you ask an entity, are they going to follow one of us home? And who are you going to follow home? And it says you to you.
Yeah.
Were you followed home then, or have you been followed home by other things since?
I have. Actually, that's something I have a new book that's going to be coming out, and I do talk about that. Actually, it picks up sort of from the girl in the flower dress chapter I had wrote about in the first book. So I have been followed home and had some weird things happen. India and I have had some weird things happen. I can't remember exactly which location we went to, but one of the locations we went to, we had went home, and we did have for sure had stuff happen. We were hearing things in our previous apartment we lived in, and we caught knives, like I don't know why, but we had 2 knives that were just sitting on our kitchen counter with the blades facing up, crossing each other like an X or something. It was really strange. It happened twice. And then we also had India was taking a shower one day or whatever, and I guess the steam had fogged up the mirror in the bathroom, and she got out of the shower and saw like a sinister smile like face on the mirror, and asked me if I did it, and I said no. So like we've had that kind of thing happen. We've seen things as a corner of eye. We've actually seen something here. First time we moved in here, we moved here about 2 months ago, and we did see something out of our corner of eyes. She was in the bathroom, and I wasn't sitting right here at the computer desk. Saw something here. That's really the extent of that. But we have had stuff follow us home from places. I like it though.
You do? Do you still interact with them, or do you try to ignore them?
I don't ignore it. I acknowledge it, but I don't like communicate, I guess, as far as that goes, you know. I don't know why I don't. I guess don't. And unless something significant happens, like if a cup flew across the room, I would clearly pick up a camera and start filming them. You know what I mean? But yeah, I like having things come home because it's like taking your work home with you. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. It's just like the more you're around it, the more you understand and try to understand and learn more about it. And that's what I like. I openly invite it to be home with me. I know a lot of people probably don't want that, or it's taboo for them. You know what I mean? But I embrace it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Huh.
So.
I've got
you go.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Go ahead. Good.
No, you go.
Oh, you want to play that game?
I can wait here all night. You go.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Okay. So we could go. I mean, we could talk about what was the other chapter you had? What was it? The Bourbon Pizza Attic. You had some really neat stuff up there. Yeah.
Actually, I graduated in a town which people probably never heard of. It's called Bourbon, Indiana. I was born and raised in Indiana. And my family moved to a city in 2008, Bourbon. And during high school, I needed to make some money. So I applied for this pizza place called Bourbon Street Pizza. It's like a really popular pizza small business by a guy named Tim Harmon. And when I first started working there, people knew I liked to ghost stuff, because around this time was when I went to Waverly Hills Sanatorium, and a lot of those people I worked with were people I graduated high school with, and they were my classmates. And they'd always, one of the people there would joke about the attic being haunted, and I was like, well, this sparked my interest. I'll definitely go up there. So like I go up there into the attic eventually, and it's creepy. It's like this building was turned. It used to be like this. I forget what the kind of car it was, but it used to be like a mechanic place. This whole entire building, the pizza place is in, and then used to be the top floor. Used to be the attic. Used to be a high-end clothing store. Well, they boarded off the stairs to go into the attic when they renovated it for the pizza place. But there was a small little hole for you to go up into it for like the air conducts and everything like that, for maintenance to go up there and check things out. That was in the garage of the pizza place. I went up there. I had some experiences as far as like just feeling it was creepy. And I went up there with some friends, and I left a static night vision camera just rolling. I had bought from Walmart, some cheap camera. And we were doing an EVP session up in the bathroom, and I go out to go get that camera. The camera was dead when I went to go retrieve it. A few days later, I found out I actually captured an apparition up in the attic. I used to get stuff whisper my name up in the attic. I didn't have any ghost hunting and stuff. I used to use my cell phone, the voice memo on there, and things would whisper my name, and things would whisper commentary, because I used to go up there with some friends, and one of my friends was like, "Oh, it's creepier than hell up here," and then you could hear something say, "Is it?" It like whispered it into it was really freaking weird, and that's like what helped spark my interest too. Like maybe like I'm being followed, or I'm supposed to be capturing paranormal stuff, and showing it to people. Like it just it was really crazy, like capturing the apparition on the camera. And I still have the camera somewhere around here, I think in our closet in the other room. But yeah, captured something walk from this other room, a dark doorway walk, and you can see his legs go. It's just really freaking freaky. I talk about that, like you said, in my book, and I actually have the video, like a QR code, so people can watch the video.
Yeah.
So it's like one of my prized possessions, capturing the paranormal field, because, like right after that, I saw a little girl, like with my own eyes, my first ghost ever saw. It's just like, that's where I felt like I had to do a show called Paranormal Encounters. It's just, I felt like I was destined to do it.
Yeah, talk a little bit about those QR codes in the book, because I know how impressed Jen was when she saw them. She's like, "There's all these great QR codes."
Like, look at that! Such a cool idea.
Yeah. I thought, here, I'll show you. Let me grab it real quick here. When I first was writing this book, I don't really write. I don't write books. I don't really read books either.
Yeah.
So like when I was writing this, I was like, what can I do to help make this a little more interesting? And then I thought about putting I have the actual audios clips from what I'm just talking about, where it says, "Is it?" and those type of things. And I put it in the book so people can actually take this with their phone camera and scan these QR codes, and it will literally take them to a link online, and they can listen to everything I'm talking about. They can even watch the apparition video, the full-blown video. Like the video was only like 3.5 minutes or so, a start to finish. It killed the battery completely. I put brand new batteries in that camera. It's just really strange. So I thought I wanted to do something really cool with it, and I'm working on something more unique for the second book.
When's the second book due, Connor?
I'm really trying to get it out next month. I'm trying not to rush it too much though, because it's like a massive story. I'm trying to figure out how I can put everything together, because like what it is the second book is called Home Sweet Haunted Home. It's based on the most watched episode that India and I have ever done. We used to live in South Carolina, and the only place around there that we could actually find out we could do an episode on was a family's home in the upstate. And they were having really strange experiences. We went there 3 times, and after the second visit, we found out that maybe there's something outside causing why their family is being haunted. They had this really weird experience. In the book, I also talk about stuff that we don't show in the episodes, like some experiences that happened when I wasn't recording. Something came down the stairs is all I'm going to really say. And twice, one time we were in the kitchen, one time we were in the dining room. The dining room and the kitchen of the house seems to be the most significant areas where these things are happening. So I talk about it in detail, a little more into it, and about a well. There's a well at this house that we never knew about. There's no history about this house, nothing before the 1980s, which is very, very strange, because when you buy a house, they disclose all the information, tax stuff like that too. But no, there's not. There's family cannot find any history. They're relying on all the history about who lived in the house by like neighbors, like because neighbors around this area, they stay in these houses, I guess, for generation after generation. So they're basically passing down this information to this family and telling them who lived in this house and when certain things in their yard was built. Like they have a gunite pool in their yard, a concrete gunite pool that was put in the 1960s. Like you can't find this stuff about at all online. I've even went to the government websites for this stuff and tried looking up tax stuff. There's literally nothing. I've even went to who died in the house, or whatever, to see even who died in the house. There's not even anything. There's nothing, which is crazy. Gosh. So like we've been discovering things by just doing a paranormal investigation. Like we never knew there was a well at the house only until we did an Estes method, which the spirits told us there was a well at the house, which triggered some stuff into thinking that maybe there's something going on as to why this house is haunted or the family's haunted.
Yeah, it's dark history there.
Yeah, which is super fascinating because there's no history, which makes it unbiased. You can't just go there and think that, you know, like we talked about the Sally house. Everybody knows about the Sally house, about the little girl and everything else, Sally. You know, it's like when you go in there, you're already have this idea subconsciously that there's a little girl here haunting. It's a dark haunting. But when you go to places that have no history, you're not biased. You don't have no idea what this house even has, and you're relying on everything that you get by communicating with the spirits. Yeah, which is super fascinating.
Yeah. So they've like done not really genealogy. I guess you could probably go through that from past owners trying to figure out who lived on that property, or assessor's office, or
no. I tried. Like that. I called those places and they don't have anything.
Man,
it's really that's what's so strange is like there was even somebody who, like, when we were trying to figure out the history, somebody had told us maybe it's Elvis's house, and that could be why maybe there's no history. He could wipe it out with all this money he had, you know, or something. But no, Elvis didn't own the house. He owned the house near there, but not that house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
that sounds really like crazy. Something you enjoy doing more, maybe, Connor, is finding places that haven't been investigated again and again and again. Because I don't watch a lot of paranormal television, but one thing I've noticed is that there seem to be houses that every show goes to investigate, and it's like I'm not sure what new is going to be found. So it sounds like you enjoy doing the type of locations that haven't been done to death.
Yeah, exactly. I do. I love it because I like finding that. Because to me, that home, that family's home, was like a diamond to find in the rough. You know what I mean? Like there's so many places that people always know about. Like, you know, you got St. Albans, you've got Penhurst. Like those are the most common. They're boring after a while. Like, I mean, it's not just so much the history. Like, sure, you could find some new stuff out about it, but it's much better to go to places that are not on the map, so to speak. You know what I mean? Just because it's fresh, it's new, and it keeps it exciting still. So yeah, I do like to find new places that aren't well known.
Yeah.
That's specifically, honestly, like what I try to do with our episodes was try to find places that weren't well known.
That's great.
Yeah. I noticed I watch way too much YouTube, and one of the shows that I watch sometimes, they were actually at Waverly Hills, and of course most people know the history of the 502 room of the lady, the nurse, and there's a man there that's been there for a long time, and I guess him and his wife have been investigating and talking to this entity back and forth, and they came up with their own little story that's really not what happened, that she was raped or murdered or something like that. Have you heard that story?
I think I've heard somebody say that to me, but not so much as in like have a conversation. I think I've just overheard, or I saw somebody talking about something like that. I have seen that stuff like that. Yeah. It's if somebody found like a different story, like what if something happened in the woods where they would take the bodies down through the death tunnel. You know what I mean? Like, what if something happened out there and somebody was murdered? Like, that'd be it wouldn't be a great story. It'd be a fascinating story to find out like something new about something.
Yes, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I never heard anybody talk about what I talked about in my book about the homeless man falling down the shaft or whatever and dying.
Yeah.
You know,
you had an experience with that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. When I first went there, the tour guide, and I hope this is a legitimate of a story. The lady had told us that there was a homeless man and his dog that would frequently go to Waverly Hills and basically trespass. And I guess like one time he was actually found dead with his dog and fell down like a shaft of some sort at Waverly Hills. And they say that you could see the dog running the property and stuff like that, and see a dog running the property, and it's not a real dog, it's actually the ghost dog. And they would say that they would see the man in the building somewhere. Well, I feel like I had the experience with both, because when I don't know what the building is called, but it's like this waiting room when you first go to Waverly Hills, and they have like all this artifacts from the place when it was in operation. And they have this old piano, and underneath the piano, underneath this chair, I was taking pictures, and I caught a dog actually on a picture, and I put it in my book. People can see it. And then I actually walked down this hallway in the second floor called the Shadow Hallway, and I talked to a ghost that wasn't anybody that was with us. I thought it was somebody who was part of our group. And I had this short conversation, walked down to the hallway, and came back by myself. And people told me I went down there by myself, which is really freaking freaky. So the guy was solid and everything to me. And like, I didn't see his face. It was dark. The moonlight was shining in from the side. That's really about it. But I just know that he had like kind of like a plaid, like long sleeve with a hat on, and that's all I could tell. And I feel like my experiences from there, maybe I witnessed the homeless man and captured his dog. You know, I mean, people would see the dog with their own eyes, but I didn't. I saw it in a picture. I wasn't even trying to. I was just taking pictures because I thought it was cool. You know, I mean, being a little tourist.
Yeah.
So.
Well, maybe because you weren't really looking for it, like maybe everybody else was. Like when people aren't.
Yeah.
It tends to show up. I don't know.
And I wasn't really ghost hunting back then at all. I was I was thrill seeking. Like my friends and I in high school, like in Bourbon, like there's a bunch of abandoned houses that no one lives in for years, and we would go there and they were haunted. We went to this one house called the Witch House, where these two witches, supposedly the stories were true, lived in this house and it's supposed to be haunted. And we'd go to those type of things, like just my friends and I. And Waverly Hills was my first like actual haunted place, I guess, I've been to.
Yeah, now you can't even get into that place. I mean, you can, but I think the wait is like really long.
Yeah, it's kind of pricey too for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, one of these days I'll go there. But
yeah, it's kind of. I feel like it'd be kind of hard to really capture good recordings there, like EVPs, because you can hear planes fly over the building. You know, it's in Louisville, Kentucky, so it's like there's no windows. You can hear the traffic, crickets. So
everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So tell us kind of a little bit about your creative and investigative kind of dynamic with India, because it's fascinating that you guys are engaged and you do this together. I'd just like to hear how it's divided, the work, and who does what and who's the expert in what. Or
honestly, I do all the camera work. I do all the filmmaking, and India introduced a device that's like, it became famous after the haunted house episode with Family's Home. It's called the Portal. She is the one that mostly handles all that type of stuff, and I try to find the locations, and I handle all the cameras. And I like to rent expensive cameras because I like to play with those toys. So like I do all the filmmaking and stuff like that, and she handles more of like the tactical side as far as the investigation goes. You know what I mean?
One of you ever more like Scully-ish or more Mulder-ish? Is one more skeptical than the other? Or?
I think honestly we both have healthy skepticism. It's always great to have healthy skepticism when you go into haunted places and not just assume it's haunted. But I'm the skittish one. so like I think it's because of my experiences, but India will go like falls into some places, and you know, I mean, I'll just stay back in some places. I mean, I tried to at one place, Randolph County Infirmary, but we captured a disembodied woman like moaning in the kitchen area when we were doing an interview, and I just couldn't go in the basement by myself at that point.
Oh, that would creep me out too.
It was just really crazy. I've had really, really awesome experiences in these last 9 years of doing ghost hunting. I should say since 2010, 11 years, but
yeah.
There
was an episode, I don't know, maybe it was Whispering Estates. I think I watched that one. Wasn't that one that where India was affected by it? Was that?
There's a second. So like there's St. Albans, which is where she really had something really messed her up when we were in Rachel's room.
Okay.
And then when we went to Whispers Estate the second time is when she woke up. She couldn't breathe. Like she woke up gasping for air. But yeah, she's mostly the one that's more so affected than I am. I think she's more sensitive to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I think more so towards Rachel. Like Rachel is this woman who had miscarried her baby, and St. Albans is kind of like a sanatorium. And this woman, which the room is kind of hard to find in this place, by the way. She kept her baby actually in a jar that she miscarried. Yeah. And the staff found out about it and took it away. So she actually took her own life in the bathroom, which is also known as the suicide bathroom, in the same room that she was in. And India was in there, and we were doing the Estes method, and I was on the outside of the room. I was hearing footsteps walking towards us and noises. I mean, it was absolutely creepy. And then India, honestly, I don't know where, screams. I dropped to the floor because I didn't expect that to happen. I go in there, and she just starts like being affected by it. And some people think that she was affected by Rachel because she wanted India to feel how she felt, in the room. So that's one place that she was really affected at.
Is she more? Maybe she was more of a sensitive, because I've noticed like the more you investigate, the more open you are, and the more you kind of get a little more sensitive to the paranormal. Yeah,
and she used to be more skeptical before we did the show, and then our experiences, I think, have made her not so skeptical, and as well as me too. Because I mean, I've had experiences like seeing a girl and everything else, but my experiences, I think, the investigations that I've been doing with India are a lot more exciting, I guess, because like we're going in there with more of an different style than I used to. I used to go in just a run and gun, go in there kind of style, and now it's more calm and it's a lot more respectful than what I would say I used to be doing. So. Yeah.
Well, that's all they showed back in the day when people would watch all those ghost hunting shows.
Yeah, and I wish I wasn't so influenced by that, just looking like an idiot, talking like an idiot to spirits and stuff like that over the years. You kind of like learn, I guess, going back to like kind of what you're saying about the techniques and stuff like that, is you kind of learn how to be patient, because you kind of walk around in an abandoned place for hours with nothing. And the significant stuff that happened, we put in our episodes are all crammed together. Yeah. So it's not exactly how it looks in the episodes. I mean, a lot we keep it as true as possible, like without too much time gaps, but you spend so much time in there, like with nothing happening.
Right. Yeah. It's like deer hunting, kind of.
Yeah. I've never been, but I could tell.
Oh yeah. It's like, it's gotta have patience. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Estes method a couple times while we've been chatting. So it's obviously a technique that you feel you get things out of. What other techniques do you find particularly worthwhile when you're investigating?
I mentioned earlier, leaving a camera running with no one even in the building is perfect. I mean, we have our friends Paranormal Quest do it all the time with their thing called abandonment, and it works phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like you could just really creepy stuff that go on in buildings. We try to use the compass before to have a compass get manipulated. We try to use more of like stuff that isn't so like high tech. Like we don't have a music box. Like I think the highest tech thing that we've got is like a REM pod. I mean, we try to keep it as basic as possible, just because if I can't really totally understand how something's working, how am I going to know that it's not giving me, like a,
False positives.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. False positive.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So we try to do unique things. Like we tried, this is really cool. I wish it would have worked. We at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, we were filming at in Tennessee. We had stuck, I can't remember exactly what our topic was, but India, myself, and her sister she was a guest in the episode, and we wanted to try something different in this episode. So we basically wrote some random word in an envelope, and we mixed it up, and we gave each other each of the envelopes, and we all went on our own solos, and we tried to get the spirits to tell us what the word was inside the envelope, and then we would open it after our session was done and see if we had anything that we heard that came through that could have been in the envelope. Just trying to do something unique that you can't trick yourself into believing that it's paranormal. You know what I mean? Like for example, I think I put my dog Benji in an envelope. If I heard Benji come through the portal or the spirit box or a voice recording, and I didn't know that the name was put in there, it'd be crazy to have.
Yeah.
And that's the type of stuff I look for, is that type of stuff.
Do you think that spirits could possibly read our minds when we're in there?
Oh yeah, I think totally. I think you already do communicate mentally with spirits, and you just don't know it, because you know what I mean. Like, you can be anything and be anywhere in your head, and you can't do that outside in the physical world, but you can in your spiritual world, which is in your mind. And I think that your thoughts are already interconnected with the spirits. So whatever your intentions are, or your plans, or what you're about to do, it already knows. So it basically decides to communicate with you. And if something does happen, it makes it look like as if something else is taking place. So if somebody's watching a video and it knows someone's going to watch a video, then they can say, oh, it's just because the shadow that moves behind Connor. You know what I mean? Those type of things. And that's just the way I've been thinking lately. It's just because everything I've tried to capture that is significant can never be proven, because it always looks like something else is taking place. Like my apparition I caught on camera. I mean, I know for a fact it's an apparition because I know the surroundings when I was in it, but people have said, oh, it's just a spider web that's swinging by. I'm like, that's not possible. So those type of things.
Yeah. People are always wanting to try and debunk it. The ones that don't want to actually grasp the paranormal. I
think so, more so nowadays, because everybody can do anything with their phones. I mean, you could make a ghost be on your phone. I mean, if you're really good at video editing, you could like make something in the video happen. You know what I mean? Like, there's really smart people, but there's a lot of deception with paranormal.
They even have this app. Like, I tried to use it at a place that I was at, and I had just downloaded it. And the reason why I picked it, because I liked, I don't know, it seemed somebody uses it on YouTube. And so I thought, well, I wanted to try it because it sounded better, and I liked how they responded, or the little voices that came through. Anyways, so I tried it, and even though I believe, in the paranormal because of my own experiences, I'm a skeptic, because I need to see that, it's not something else logical or whatever. So it started saying things, and then I would catch on that it would say it again and later on. And then it started naming things that could have been said through my phone. I'm like, is it going through my contacts? Like, just weird stuff. So I don't think I trust those kind of apps.
I will say this though, like the apps I'm skeptical on, but I do believe spirits can manipulate anything, even your phone. I mean, the people who have used old-fashioned TVs to try to communicate with spirits, I think they can manipulate anything. The weirdest thing I had ever had happen to me using those apps was back then, I want to say in 2012, I want to say, before I moved to Las Vegas. I went to Bobby Mackey's Music World, and at the time, Ghost Radar was super popular. And I couldn't get in Bobby Mackey's. I went there the night, and they had closed, and I was basically staying in the parking lot because I wanted just to see the place. And basically, I had taken out the Ghost Radar app, walked towards the building, and it never said a word. The weirdest thing ever happened. It said, "Bob is fun," in a sentence. And those things only spit out one word at a time. So that was the weirdest thing, because Bobby Mackey is the one who owns the building, that music club. And I thought it was really strange. That's one thing I couldn't explain, is how would it say Bob is fun? And I'm just so happen to be right in front of Bobby Mackey's Music World.
Yeah.
So,
Well, then, then there's those, iPhone, they have Find My iPhone. I don't know. I always think about stuff like that.
yeah.
Somebody's spying on me. So I just kind of wonder if those apps work the same way.
I wondered too, Connor, when you were talking about perhaps ghosts being able to read our minds or know what we were thinking. Then my other skeptic hat goes on. I'm not a skeptic that I don't believe in any psychic phenomenon or anything like that, because my views are a little more complicated than that. But I often wonder, as I suggested in the introduction when Jen was talking about her bathroom stall door being closed at her place of work, I wonder if somehow we might exteriorize something ourselves. So something here becomes externalized. So for example, when you were talking about doing that fascinating experiment where you'd all written different things in and exchanged them, if that had worked, I would have instantly have thought perhaps it wasn't something else. Perhaps it was your own minds communicating, or something we don't quite understand. Do you ever, when you're out there in the field, have a sense that maybe you or other investigators or owners of residences are somehow manifesting anything themselves in that capacity?
Yeah, I do think that too, because even our friend Josh Hurd, who owns the Malvern Manor, runs it, has said too that there's stories that people go to places and they've told it so many times that maybe they create the ghost. You know what I mean? Like if I tell you guys the story and you go there and you'll have the same experiences, you know what I mean? Like the human mind is beyond what we can even comprehend. We do not fully understand the mind. So it's like our mind, I think, for sure could do something like that. I know my great aunt's friend Pam, I actually had just talked to her a few days ago. She's helping me do my new book. She did the first book for me. She was going over and whatever, proofreading it.
Yeah.
She had talked about an experience that she had before in her house that she said something about how like her head was ringing or something like that, and then basically her blinds in her house, like her house was like vibrating, and she thought that maybe that was her, like her mind creating something like that, making that happen, that type of thing. And I found that pretty interesting because, like not a lot of people, I guess, look at stuff like that in the paranormal. I think it's really fascinating when people think outside the box, like maybe question, is it really people or aliens, whatever people want to say it is, interdimensional beings. I mean, is it really us that can do that kind of stuff like that? Because you can do anything you want if you set your mind to it. You know what I mean? Like it's basically a law of attraction. Like if you can think of something like that and you have all this good luck, why couldn't you do that too with something that's physical in our world, like move something with their own mind or something like that? Like there's people that bend spoons supposedly with their mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of also like if you think about remote viewing, everybody's can somehow kind of connect, like, we're all one consciousness. So therefore, if you tap into that, you can,
Yeah. What is it that's left behind when we do go? You know what I mean? Our essence, our mind, you know what I mean? What part of ourselves leaves behind? You know what I mean? The energy that we create. You know what I mean? What is energy though? You know what I mean? We call it energy because that's what we think that's what that is, or that's what we compare it to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But what if it's something beyond what we can comprehend? Because people can't even, scientists don't even, they still argue about the whole soul thing. If we have a soul or anything like that. I like to think that we live on beyond this life.
Yeah.
Or we don't pay taxes or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think science has consistently been inadequate to deal with things which reside outside of its paradigm. That's something Charles Ford, of course, who I'm influenced by considerably, made the point of talking about, 70, 80 or more years ago now, is that there was all this type of phenomenon which is damned by science. In other words, it's just ignored. And that can be whether it's UFOs or Bigfoot or ghosts. And there seems to be this overwhelming desire by a lot of people who investigate all of these things or these things separately to somehow have an entry point into science to say, here's the Bigfoot body, here's the proof, or here's the irrefutable ghost video, or here's the piece of the flying saucer which crash landed in the desert of New Mexico. But I find such evidence never really forthcoming. And so to me, back to a point you made a minute ago, Connor, where we were talking about ghosts and you were saying, well, mate, is it alien or interdimensional, or there are these other ideas? A lot of thinkers and philosophers of the paranormal have suggested that maybe these things share some more than just share common traits. Maybe they come from the same place. So you get people like obviously Jacques Vallée and John Keel and Patrick Harper, the big earlier thinkers who started to throw these ideas out. But for example, a guest we had on about a month ago, Joshua Kuchin, has written a couple of books with Timothy Renner talking about the commonalities with Bigfoot and other paranormal phenomena. And so there's similarities to poltergeist activities in Bigfoot, which most people don't even think about. For example, poltergeist phenomenon, quite often there's stories of rocks being thrown at houses or falling on roofs. And of course, one of the big things which people encounter supposedly when they encounter Bigfoot is Bigfoot throwing rocks. Now, they never necessarily see a Bigfoot, but they're in the woods. Oh, a rock got thrown at me. It must be a Bigfoot. But if somebody's investigating a haunted house and rocks fall on the ceiling, oh, poltergeist manifestation. So you have to think how many of these things might truly be interconnected. And when somebody's over here just looking at ghosts, or somebody's over here just looking at Bigfoot, and somebody here is investigating aliens, they might miss some of these connections, I think.
Yeah, that's something I haven't actually thought about. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the interconnectivity of it all.
I like hearing new things. I find it very fascinating to hear different things, you know.
Yeah. A lot of with Bigfoot sightings, they always end up seeing lights in the sky and orbs. So there's all these, they're all linked together somehow. It seems like it.
So it's really weird if you take science completely out of the question. What do you have? What laws and physics do you have that you compare things to, that your experiences are? Because science is made up by us. You know what I mean? It's made up by stuff that we can test, that we can see, that we can touch, all that kind of stuff like that. But what about the science of things they can't see, touch, or hear? You know what I mean? Like there's some microphones that scientists can actually hear things, but way below our human hearing that we can hear, which is very fascinating. So it's like there's different worlds that they don't tap into because science is only something that we are familiar with. And that's why ghosts and stuff like that are not considered, like scientific, because it's not something they can test, because they can't. It's not possible. So like, there's no way to define it as being real to the science people, I guess, world. But if you take science completely out, what kind of world do we have? That kind of stuff.
Well, we had a different paradigm once. Says the author C.S. Lewis, who's famous for the Narnia books, so everybody would have seen the movies like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. That is it. They didn't read the books. He wrote a book, a non-fiction book, which I haven't read since college, but it was called The Discarded Image. And he talked about once upon a time we had a very different view of reality, that medieval type view, which had a much more inclusive sense of a creation that was all connected with each other, and as above, so below, those type of ideas. And I think when science has come in and carved up reality, physics has taken this part, and chemistry has taken this part, and biology has taken this part. I think that somehow that more significant interconnection between our entire state of being has been lost. And ironically, perhaps it's in these kind of darkened byways of human nature, or human experience, more accurately, whether it's ghosts or Bigfoot or UFOs, or somehow our interconnection with the paranormal or the anomalous or the supernatural. Maybe in some ways that is our way back to understanding a more holistic or broader nature of reality that science almost seems to have stripped away from the human consciousness, to be honest.
Yeah, I think a lot of it happened over in Europe, honestly, back then, and then it made its way to America. Yeah,
yes.
I think, what I mean, like you were talking about how everything's interconnected. I was actually going to write part of my book like about witches, and I was doing some research about, like pagans and how they were how they were persecuted back then, and then like
Yes.
witches were all made up about flying on brooms and everything else. Like it's just, you know, they used to worship Mother Nature, like Mother Goddess. And basically, you know, like we have, you know, a Sabbath coming off right now on the 31st, Halloween, Hallows Eve. So like they basically gave thanks to Mother Nature for the good things that it gives you. And those things could be connected as well too with the paranormal experiences. Like what if those people had paranormal experiences that were more defined back then because they were more open and they were more worshiping of Mother Nature? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was definitely a different understanding of our interconnection with reality. And speaking of witches and Halloween, as a quick aside, Heidi Erickson, who's been a guest of ours twice in the past, is back for our October 30th Halloween special. And she wants to be talking about witches because I think perhaps she is one. I know she has a broad interest in. So you'll have to listen to that, Connor, if you've got.
Oh, heck yeah.
If you're not partying, or you can always listen to it later, even if you are partying on the October. I know if I was in Sydney back in the day, I would have been partying on October 30th, the day before Halloween, if it had fallen on a Saturday. But tell us a little bit about how we can, or how our audience can get a hold of you, watch your videos, and perhaps more significantly, read your new book and your upcoming book. How do they get a hold of those?
Yeah, they can watch all of our episodes and more content, like bonus content, on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/paranormal encounters. They can go to our Facebook page and connect with me, or send questions, or even check out some of the stuff that we've got on there. That's facebook.com/official paranormal encounters. Even on our Instagram, we have paranormal it's the little @ thingy, Paranormal Encounters TV. They can go on there and connect with us on that as well. As far as the book is available on Amazon right now. It's available in paperback, Kindle, hard copy, and audiobook, which is super fascinating. I had Josh Hurd, who was in our last episode we filmed, read my book, and it's just like super fascinating. I'm not really into audiobooks, but when he read it, it's just like, wow, this is really crazy.
Yeah, he's got a good voice for it too.
He does.
Yeah.
So yeah,
have you got the book there? I think you had it before. Flash us the cover if you have it there. Jen probably does as well.
Yeah, he's got one. I've got it over here.
It's a cool cover.
It is, and it feels neat. I don't know what material it's made out of.
It's matte, the matte cover. I love the matte cover. I used to have the gloss, but I didn't really like how it turned out. This girl right here is actually it's like a depiction of who I actually saw when I was filming the old Paranormal
I
Encounters.
see. I didn't even notice that was a girl.
She's got like a little flower. If I can even point. She's got flowers in her dress. Of course, she's got a teddy bear. It's not 100%, but it's literally, that's the point of why she's on those front covers, because this is what made me realize that there is something beyond our comprehension that we're never going to understand, that I was lucky enough to be able to see, with my, like, in front of me, like not from the side of my eyes. I actually got to see all the details and everything. Super fascinating.
Well, you're definitely meant to see it, because not everybody gets to see that. I mean, that's pretty special.
I got really lucky. I don't know. I got really lucky with I had so many experiences happen all at once. That's why I enjoy writing the book, because I can go more in detail about things I don't tell people,
Yeah. I enjoyed reading it. I'm going to definitely get your next one.
Thank you. Yeah. The next one, I hope the next one comes out next month. I'm hoping so, but if it doesn't, it'll be soon, hopefully in the fall, but it's going to be at least a decent sized book. I think there's a lot of chapters I got to write about. It's a little overwhelming because there's just so much information. I'm just trying to figure out how to put it together for everybody to understand.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm not, as I mentioned to you in the green room, or the pre-record, or whatever you want to call it before we started, is the whole ghost side of the paranormal, the supernatural, the forwarding isn't really my thing. It's Jen's thing. But you were an absolutely awesome guest, Con, and we should get you back and talk about that next book as well, because I really enjoyed tonight's conversation.
Yeah, me too. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I mean, I can talk forever, honestly, about ghosts. I try to get people, even at work, to talk about ghosts with me. They're probably like, this guy is weird. I don't know. I work at Amazon, so they know that my book's on Amazon and stuff like that.
Oh, do they tease you about that?
So what? Yeah.
Would they tease you about that? No,
they don't tease me, because I live in Colorado, so it's like they love that stuff. Well, I live by near the Stanley Hotel.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Never been.
Still?
I was going to say, did you ever
Oh.
meet? Isn't Connor Randall like the
Yeah.
what do
Yeah.
you call it? The person the resident like investigator or something of the.
Yeah, he's one of the people who actually started the Estes method too.
Mhm.
He and a few other people back in 2016. So yeah, like we had talked about, the Estes method is my favorite, and I'd love to try it at the Stanley Hotel.
Yeah.
Got to reach out to Connor and go in there and do it with
Yeah.
him.
It'd be a little weird.
No,
and-
you're both Connors, right? It's
Yeah,
Connor
yeah.
Randall. I'm not wrong, right? It's
Yeah,
Connor
yeah.
Randall.
That's right.
Yeah. So when it goes to Connor, I'm like, which one?
Which one? There you go.
We're going to murder one of you tonight. Who?
Oh.
Connor.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
Which one?
The Shining. Yes.
Well, we will have you back, and you were a fantastic guest. But until we chat
Thank
next,
you.
Connor, make sure, mate, that you keep it weird.
Yeah, I will. Thank you guys
Yeah.
for having me on.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you.
You too.
Night.
Thank you for joining us tonight. If you're interested in checking out more episodes, you can find us at talkingweird.com. If you haven't already, please like the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talking Weird Podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to Talking Weird. We're available on most podcast platforms and YouTube. And if you do enjoy the show, please leave us a review. Dean and I would really appreciate it. Until then, stay safe and keep it